Okay, I think we're live now. So I'm gonna start by welcoming everyone to this session of Director's Corner. We're very, very happy to have today with us Ντανίλο Καπούτο from Italy, Δημήτρης Κουτσιαμπασάκος from Greece, and Λίλι Χόρβατ from Hungary. You can now unmute yourselves. Let me just first start by saying that Director's Corner is a new initiative of the Thessaloniki International Film Festival, this year running its 61st edition. And it's a coalition between the international and Meet the Neighbors competition programs, as well as the Greek section, and the Agora, which is the industry event of the Thessaloniki International Film Festival. The films that are presented by the filmmakers today are Sow the Wind by Ντανίλο Καπούτο, Daniel 16 by Δημήτρης Κουτσιαμπασάκος, and Preparations to Be Together for an Unknown Period of Time. I've learned it by heart. So let's start by you, Danilo, since you're on the left of whatever I'm seeing. I'm going to be inviting each one of you to say a few things about yourself and about your film, and then we can kickstart a conversation amongst us. And the main goal is for you to talk between yourselves. I'm just here to accommodate this. We'll be receiving questions from the audience later on, but if you have whatever in your mind that you want to speak about with your fellow filmmakers, just feel free to pop in and, do your thing. Danilo. Okay.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Danielo Caputo. I'm from Italy, and Sow the Wind was Seminal Vent, or I don't remember the Greek title, but it sounded very, very beautiful. It's a film that's very close to me, both geographically, because it's set here in Apulia, the region where I'm from. Actually, we shot everything in the radius of 10 kilometers from my hometown, from my house. So it's very close in that sense, but it's also very close because it's a film that really touches upon a lot of themes that are very, very close to me, things that having grown up here, I always have felt very strongly about, and somehow the story of Nika and the characters around her and the places around her, somehow the eco things that are very important for me. So I'm really glad to have been able to present the film in Thessaloniki, and I'll be happy to talk about it and discuss about other things with you today.
Would you like to say a couple of things about the story?
Yeah, it's a story of a girl, Nika, who comes back home for the first time after 3 long years of absence. And when she comes back, she realizes that something is wrong, that the olive trees that once used to belong to her grandmother now are sick, and that her parents are actually happy to cut them down in order to get some money back, some refunds back. And she starts working on these trees, and that's the beginning of the story. And then she tries to find a remedy to cure these trees, but slowly she understands that the problem is bigger, and that not only the trees are infested by an insect, but it's also that people somehow are infested themselves, and that the pollution has gotten into people's minds. And so she needs somehow to do something about that.
Thank you, Danilo. Dimitri, would you like to talk a bit about yourself and your film?
Yes, my film is called Daniel 16. It's a movie about Daniel, a German teenager who is sent to Greece in a juvenile offender community. He's sent to this community in order to serve his sentence. And we follow him there in an abandoned village of Evros River area. This area is near to border with Turkey. And we follow how he experiences very hard and unprecedented emotions, and he has to solve difficult dilemmas, and we follow this, let's say, this path of his life, and how his final decision will be a surprise for not only for the audience, but maybe for him as well. It is a movie inspired of real events. I mean, this community, those communities have been existing in Greece since, I think, 20 years. So when we came across with an article about this existence of those communities, we made the research, we went there, and it was very interesting to see those German teenagers in Greece to live in this rural area. Yeah, we wrote a script, a fiction one, but the action takes place in this area, near the borders with Turkey, near the Evros River.
So it's actually the place where this juvenile center is in reality.
Is in reality, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Lily, what about you?
Preparations to be together for an unknown period of time is maybe the longest title in the festival. It is my second feature. It premiered at Venice this September, and since then it was screened all over, like Toronto and Busan and many other festivals. And I'm so happy to be part of this year's Thessaloniki program, even in this funny way. Maybe I'll tell a bit about the story. So it's the story of a 40-year-old woman, a brilliant neurosurgeon, a Hungarian neurosurgeon who has made a big career in the US. And she comes back to his hometown, Budapest, because she has fallen in love with a fellow Hungarian doctor at a New Jersey conference. And they set up a date. And then she arrives full of love and expectations for a new life with him. But the man doesn't show up at their rendezvous. And then the woman starts to search for him desperately. But when she finally finds him, then the man says, sorry, this is the first time I'm seeing you in my life. You must be mistaking me for someone else. And that's how our story starts. And from then on, she stays in Budapest, and she gets a job at the Budapest hospital, and she tries to find out what has actually happened. So it's an inner journey, let's say.
Thank you very much. We have three completely different films here with us, but one of the things that I really liked about all three of your films is how interesting the sound is. And I will take cue from Danilo, who has a background in classical music. So, and his previous films also have had an important role with the sound. And in your film, Danilo, it's Nika's attention to listening to nature. That's what drives the action, or at least a lot of the action. And in preparations, Lily, it's either the classical music that Janos and then Marta listens to, or the silences that kind of become highlighted. And in Daniel 16, the soundtrack by Vangelis Fabas, that's suggestive, but also accompanying the characters, but also you have the sounds of the Muslim prayers or the internet cafe sounds. Can you talk a bit about how you work with sound as a director? And I don't know, maybe to put it in a more philosophical way, what is sound to you?
Danilo, it's your turn.
Okay, we start from the left.
No, you can improvise.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can start. I think that for us, sound was already there in the script, and it was important because in a way the idea was that the images of the film will stay real, will stay very anchored in reality and objectivity, and that through sound we could try to reach, we could try to go inside Nika's head and so reach a form of subjectivity, and in a way have two different things going on. An image that's pretty objective, and a sound that takes us inside our head. And this was interesting because what's going on inside our head is very different than what's going on in most people's head, because Nika has grown up with her grandmother. She's grown up with a grandmother who was almost a witch, who had almost a way of communicating with the trees and with life that is not human beings. And somehow what Nika learned from her is to listen to things, and to listen to the trees, to the rustling of the leaves, to all those small sounds that we don't pay attention to. So by listening through her ears, we start listening to a very small sound, very subtle, almost beyond sounds that are almost beyond perceptions. And I think that what that does is that it creates a state of attention, a state of refined perception almost through the duration of the film. And that's why sound was so important. We also decided to use music on this film, which was a debated choice, because nowadays it's always hard to say, well, let's use music. But we wanted to leave the door open for hope, and at the same time to try to bring the reality to another level, to give it a sense of mystery. And that's why it's in that sense that we worked with music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hope, reality, mystery. Lily, I think
my turn.
To you.
Yeah. It was a big question for us, actually, to we wanted to make a world which represents the inner state of Marta, the protagonist, and we were experimenting with sound designer Rudolf Várhegyi a lot with some effects, and then it turned out to seem cheap somehow. All these solutions with sound effects, and then we decided to do it only with real sounds to show her state of mind. And we built a lot on contrasts between loud and silent things, and the silence you mentioned is really important, because she's alone a lot in a lot of scenes, but still in film silence is never a mute thing, so you have to build up silence as well with really small noises, and we used a lot of noises of the city, and with public transport sounds and such things. Trams became an important building element, and those tram noises even played a part in the score at the end. Our composer Gábor Keresztes included it in the soundtrack, so it was really a cooperation, and something that came upon while we were working. And as for the classical music, I've never used so much diegetic music before, and it was a decision I made because I wanted the man to have his own world although we see almost throughout the whole story, see him only with the woman's eyes, from the woman's perspective. So we don't really get to know him really, but still I wanted him to be a three-dimensional character. And I of course, he's a neurosurgeon. That thing we knew about him, but the thing that he is involved with classical music, that classical music plays a crucial part in his life, was something that was really easy to show in those little scenes, and that added a lot to the depth of his character, I guess, and that he's a hi-fi geek. Very much into all loudspeakers, and yeah, and then we were looking for pieces of music, and at the end it's all Schubert.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. What about you, Dimitri? You had a combination of things.
Yeah, at the beginning, I must admit that the sound of the movie, when I began shooting, I knew just one thing, that I knew that I follow my character. The story is told by the point of view of the main character. His first time he's sent to a foreign country, so he perceives sounds very clearly and very keen. I knew that, and I asked my sound engineer during the shooting to record sounds, and in order to create this landscape afterwards in the editing. It worked very well, but during the editing, I discovered that when I started editing, I didn't imagine my movie with music at all, but because music is a very difficult question for a movie. I mean, it is very, it's a big decision to have music in your movie, because it is, music is a form of art that is, it's very ancient and has own ability to create something very unique. And sometimes it seems to be a foreign body in a movie. So I didn't want a lot of music at the beginning, but during the editing, I discovered that I want a lot of music in my movie. Why, I don't know, but I said to Vangelis Fabas that maybe we need to write some songs, and we need a lot of music. And he was very, at the beginning, he didn't agree with me, but then we finally understood that, yes, this is a very good path to go. Of course, I was very lucky because Christos Gouskios is a sound and a musician and a sound designer in Greece, very well known. And he started to read the movie from his point of view, and he came up with solutions that really amazing. And I thank him for it. Yeah, for me, I pay great attention to sound, because I think that we can't see without hear. So for me, sound is it's equally important as image. Yeah.
And in a way, sound, it's because it involves listening, it involves the body. And I think all of your films are quite visceral. You feel the film. And I'm going to take cue again from you, Danilo, because you've said in one of your interviews that your first reaction was anger while, you know, dealing with the story of your film, but you didn't want to point the finger, you wanted to go deeper. And anger is a powerful emotion. So I was wondering what kind of feeling you wanted to highlight in your film, each of you. I don't know if it makes sense.
Anger was a starting point for me, and even now that I've moved back home here, I mean, all it takes is for me to drive around to actually have that feeling of anger, but it comes with a feeling, with a sort of powerlessness, and also with a need to understand. Like each time I see something, I try to understand where it comes from. So, for example, the easiest example is there's a moment in the film where Nika sees somebody throw trash in the countryside, and that's something that really happens a lot here, and happens more and more and more, because people cannot bother with recycling their trash. So it's too hard. So they just go out in the countryside and throw their stuff there. And of course, the first reaction is one of anger, but then I try to understand what mentality could allow something like that to happen. And that applies for a little bit everything. We always see in the film this factory on the background, because the city where we shot the film has the largest steel factory in Western Europe. It's been here since the 60s. It's always been accused of polluting, and yet it keeps being active. And it's something that we do to ourselves, because we feel that we cannot live without this factory, and it's like a toxic relationship where we know that it hurts and it's bad for us, and yet we cannot get out of this relationship. And so what I really wanted to talk about in the film was not, as you said, to point my finger on this phenomenon, but rather to try to get to the core of the mentality that allows for these things to happen. And it's a mentality where people somehow feel that they need to choose between the work, so earning their month's wage, and their health, and they end up choosing the work. So somehow it's something that's been taught to us. I think it's something that's been we've been brainwashed to think this way. And when people are brainwashed to think that way, then they're willing to accept anything. They're willing to accept, to poison the land where they live, to just go on with life. And somehow that's the mentality that I try to depict in the character of the father, but also in the society that we see in the film.
It's what they say in the film, that people would rather die of cancer than of hunger.
Yeah, exactly. Which is something, I mean, it's really the way it is. And it's funny because somehow coronavirus is putting everyone in front of this situation where all the states are wondering, should we let people die of coronavirus, or should we, pay for all the economic problems that this is going to create.
Yeah. So a very contemporary.
Yeah, somehow, of course, the coronavirus has nothing to do with that, but somehow there are some places, and my hometown is one of these places, where that question is always present. So that's the kind of question that people have all the time, not just now.
Thank you, Danilo. Would anyone like to take turn?
Yeah, it's maybe I was focusing most on the role of our own imagination when we fall in love, and I guess in our protagonist's case it is an extreme situation, but that thing we all know. I think it is a common experience that when we fall in love with someone, then we project a lot of things on that person that maybe tell more about us than of the actual person. And this is of course, yeah, when the actual being together happens, then it is a task to find happiness with this situation or with that situation too. But that's something that our story doesn't deal with. So that our film plays in this preparation phase, and I guess that of course this is a murky no man's land, but it's a beautiful phase of love, this beginning when it is still in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And filled with different emotions, so it's like a roller coaster of
Yeah, absolutely, and it deals a bit with how differently can two people experience the same love story. It can go for other situations too, of course, not only love, but in the case of love, it's can be extremely heartbreaking.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lili. Dimitri?
As I told you, although the film, my movie is based on real events, I mean the refugee crisis in Greece, what is really under the movie is the feeling of being alone, the feeling of being socially excluded, the feeling of to have lost someone, a beloved person, and to be very aggressive and distrustful to people, even though you are looking for them, you need them. I think that this, let's say, situation, this theme is very topical today. It's especially not only in Greece, but in Europe, in the world. So this feeling inspired the story of my movie.
And it's it has to do a lot with trauma, as you describe it, how post-traumatic stress disorder affects people like your protagonist. And this is why, on one hand, they do not trust others, but they have a deep need to connect with others.
Yeah, it is a person that he does not, he can't function inside the, let's say, inside the borders of family. The family itself, she can't help him. So he starts a journey by his own, and he manages somehow to find the solution. But he wants to find a solution, and he's very brave to this, and finally he finds a way. Yeah.
So we have started receiving questions from the audience, and I will start. There is a comment first about your film, Dimitri, and then a question. So the comment is, there is a surprise in the songs in your movie. Excellent music composed by Vangelis Fabas, and the words are written by you, and they work perfectly. This is by Depi Vretou.
Yeah.
And there is another question. Will it be wrong if I described your name as your film, as a semi-documentary?
As
semi-documentary, half documentary, let's say.
Okay. Yeah, this is not a documentary because it's a fiction movie with actors. Okay, but as a style, the style of the movie is a documentary style because I wanted to heighten the sense of reality in my movie. That's why I decided to work with like I am shooting a documentary. Yeah. So in this sense, yes, I borrowed some stylistic methods from a documentary, but of course, this is not a documentary.
Okay, thank you. So Lily, here's one that reads, I like how Marta is so intelligent, but allows herself to be guided by her emotions, although she appears so cool. But it must have been tricky to write a character like that, so as not to appear stereotypical. What was your biggest concern while creating Marta and her story?
My biggest concern, it's a big question. And one of my producers told me that when she read the screenplay, that it was an anti-feminist movie, and I guess that's a good definition. And because you see a seemingly crazy woman racing after a guy, and then it turns out that she's a top neurosurgeon, and this is and I was playing throughout the story with this mix of strength and fragility, and this is who just came home from school.
That's great.
That's the beauty of Zoom sessions, I guess.
Hello.
Hello.
So I guess that's it, and I wanted to show that showing this let's say weakness can be a sign of real how to say not authority but integrity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it does show.
No.
I mean, you can feel it. So we move on to the next question, which is addressed to Danilo. I really liked how you have the element of the grandma / witch in the story. Is there a strong witch tradition in Apulia? And can you talk a bit about about that?
In general, in the south of Italy, but and all of Italy until the 50s and 60s, there was a strong tradition of ritual magic, meaning that magic was used to cure people from diseases. So if a child had a problem, if anybody had trouble sleeping, anything that went from physical problems to psychic problems was cured with a form of ritual magic. And there was a lot of documentation about that. And then all of that kind of disappeared in the 60s with the economic boom in Italy. So then it only stays as a folklore, and it really disappeared because this new mentality that came with the new well-being, with industrial style of life, as well as a Christianization of the rural parts of Italy, that magic is not widespread anymore. But so it's not present in my family at all. And I think that's why somehow it fascinated me. And so what I know about it comes more through researching than oral stories and things like that.
Okay. Let's move to another one, to Lily. What directors would you say influenced your work or your view on filmmaking in general?
Well, on filmmaking in general, that would be a long list. And when I was very young, right after high school, I spent a year in Paris and with my family, because my father was a guest professor at the Sorbonne for 1 year, and the whole family spent 1 year there. And I studied audiovisual arts at the university. And yeah, you might know that in Paris, that's a whole different cinema culture from the rest of the world. So cinema is such a vivid part of cultural life, and even old cinema, that I had the chance to watch all the big classic films on these little art house cinemas in Paris on the big screen, and that really formed my perspective on cinema. So I could tell all the, so that was the first time that I met the work of Bergman or Hitchcock or Cassavetes and etc. I could tell the whole list. And and in the case of this film, I think that Krzysztof Kieślowski was a big influence, and his female characters, and Hitchcock's Vertigo, definitely. And I even borrowed or paid an homage to one scene of Paris, Texas, by Wim Wenders, this walking scene. Some viewers recognize it, but most viewers don't, because that's used in a different way. But every time someone says how beautiful a scene this is, and I always feel that I don't deserve this compliment, because it's due to Wenders.
Well, you stole it very well.
Oh, thank you.
So we move on with the question to Dimitris. We usually see the other way around, stories of immigrants and how they reach Germany and adapt to life there. But you bring German characters to Greece. It's an interesting twist. And what inspired you to write this story?
An article in a newspaper. It was some years ago when I read an article in a Greek newspaper, and there it was mentioned that in Greece, about the operation in Greece, those institutions, German institutions for German teenagers with delinquent behavior. So it was really, I was impressed, me and my partner, and we went to and we visited this, as I told you before, this facility, and we discussed with the people that were working there, with the teenagers, the inmates of this facility, and we wrote the script. But this is, of course, it's a refugee story. But this is in the background. I'm focusing on my main character. He's a European, but he's a refugee in another country, in Greece. And because I believe that the history of mankind is a refugee history. So this issue is very, very very important and very easily to understand for everyone. There is no nation or state that has not experienced it. I mean, to be a refugee at some stage or to have a memory of this. It's very familiar to all people. And of course, I must admit that you can be a refugee with different ways. I mean, the main protagonist of Lili's movie is a refugee because she follows, she's in a completely foreign environment emotionally. and she feels alone. She feels that nobody understands her. She has a desire. Yeah, it's a refugee. Yeah, like all those people in Greece. Yeah. The same with Danilo, with this girl. She knows, she understands, she knows what is happening. She loves her, these olive trees. She understands, but nobody understands her. Yeah. So what the question was?
No.
Yeah.
You answered the question because it was what inspired you, but we have another one that ties in with what you have been saying. So the question reads, it's a very important issue for Greece, how the government and society deal or not with the refugees. And what's your observations on the matter? What do you think might happen in the next months or years?
Oh, you know, this is a very difficult question because what we live and what we are experiencing now and what it happens is amazing. Because the events follows one another and big major changes happens, especially in our neighborhood, let's say. So I'm very pessimistic with this issue. I think that now is worse than 2 years ago and a year ago, or even 6 months ago for the refugee topic. Where, you know, as Turkey is, you see what happens in Armenia and what happens between Turkey and Greece. Turkey uses the refugee, all those Syrians and people that comes to there as a weapon to negotiate with the rest of Europe. So I don't know. I'm afraid I don't know. Yeah.
Fear is the right sentiment, I think, for this question. Yeah. Okay, we have one for Danilo. Is violence necessary, you think, for things to move forward?
Yeah, I see why somebody will ask me that question, but I don't think violence is necessary. But I think that some form of persuasion is necessary, meaning that I think some form of action is necessary. We cannot just observe things and judge them and then accept for them to keep happening. We need to do something. And I think that if I had to, my reply to that question is that I think that some form of action is necessary, and that makes me think of what, for example, Extinction Rebellion does. So a form of action that's not violent, meaning it's not violent against people, or it's not blown out riots, but somehow puts a stick in the wheels of the system and forces the public attention to focus on what they're saying and to listen to what they're saying, and to take that voice into account, also to imagine different possibilities, different alternatives. So I think that action is necessary, violence not.
Okay, thank you very much.
But a little bit.
But a little bit.
A little bit of shock. Shock rather than violence.
Okay. Yeah.
Lily, we have a question. Your film is almost like a thriller. Do you think love is a thriller?
Yeah, I think so. or a labyrinth. Yeah. I think so, and I felt that it can be like mixing elements of the genre of psychological thriller into a love story can be organic. Yeah, definitely.
I wish we could understand.
Sorry.
It's okay. Dimitri, do you believe that what happens at the end of the your movie can happen in real life from the audience again?
Yes, of course. Of course, although it is not a real event, what happens, it's, let's say, it's an unrealistic scene, but the meaning of this scene is something that is very realistic. I mean, there is a hope in our life. I believe that, although, as I told you before, I'm pessimistic about this issue, but there is a hope. And I regard it very important to have a hope and not to lose your hope, and to keep going and to keep fighting for your life, for what you want. Yeah.
Indeed. At this point, we don't have any other questions from the audience. Maybe they will join in later. But I wanted to see if you have any questions for the other two people here. I mean, has anything created some curiosity to you that you want to ask?
Yeah, I'm really curious of your films, and I'm so sorry I couldn't see them. And Dimitris, you saw our films, right? Or
sorry?
You saw our films.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. And I have a question for you.
Geo-blogged in Greece.
Yeah, Lily, I have a question of you, and of course for Danilo as well. I liked your both movies for different reasons. I found them, I liked very much, and I was very, very happy that when Elena told me that we will be together. What I want to ask you, how did you plan? Because the atmosphere of your movie is unique, and I don't know. And how did you plan this? How did you choose? I don't know if you shot it in film or digitally. How did you plan the atmosphere, the contrast? How did you? What discussion you had with your DOP or artistic director? Yeah.
Yeah, we shot on 35 millimeters, so it's
why?
And because I felt that this story carries a lot of secrets, and therefore I wanted to escape this this perfectness of digital images, and this because I see no secret there really, and I think a lot of stories fit well the digital technology, and I shot my first film on Alexa, and it was really fine. But in this case, I felt that I was looking for these imperfections and grains and yeah, the secrets that that celluloid carries in itself. And so that was a decision that we made really early on, and I was also co-producing the film, and I had two really beautiful partners in this, Dora and Peter, who worked as producers on the movie, and we were discussing that, as I said, really early on, and we made this decision that we had, of course, budget concerns, as we do have always, but we decided not to touch this decision, so not to question this when it is when it comes to budget considerations. And I renounced of extra shooting days or expensive locations because of this. And with the DOP, he's called Robert Mali, and we've been working together since our film school years, and we have a method of preparing for a shooting, we start by looking for references, photos and paintings and films, of course. And in this case, I saw an exhibition, a photo exhibition, street photo in Vienna, and there I saw some photos of Saul Leiter, an American photographer from the 50s, and that showed a taxi cab, a yellow taxi, on the streets of New York in the 50s, and on the back seat, a man sat, but the only thing we saw of him was his arm, like holding that handle, and that's the only thing we saw of him. And then I called Robbie the DP and showed him the picture, and I told him that's the way I would like to picture the male character in this film, like observing him from the man's point of view. Dimitris,
where did he go?
Here.
Yes.
Yeah, the image was already frozen.
Maybe he will
rejoin
again.
Yeah,
you can go.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. About and
okay.
then we were researching his work. I mean, this photographer's work, and we built a lot in terms of atmosphere on his photos.
Can you repeat his name?
It's Saul Leiter. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. It's Saul, like Saul and Leiter.
Yeah, Leiter. Oh, great. Thank you.
Lily, I have a question for you, if I can.
Sure.
Shooting in film, what does that? Because I never shot in film. And what does how does the work with actors? I don't know. Like, did you have enough time with them, or did you feel that sometimes you might have wanted to shoot more with them to do 12 takes and you couldn't do that?
Yeah, we were rehearsing quite a lot before the shooting, and shooting on film requires more time on lights, building the lights, and that gave us also time to rehearse even during the shooting days. So. No, I felt that this created an extra focus, not only from the actors' side, but that the whole crew was so much focused on our work, because when we were shooting in digital, our previous film, it was like every second crew member had his own screen, his or her screen, and everybody was watching the scene like it was an atomized crew, like everyone before his or her own screen, and the camera is already rolling because the material doesn't cost anything, and it's already rolling, and slowly we start to shoot the scene. And in this case, there is one screen only. That's for me and for those who really have to watch it, and all the crew members are really focused because it costs a lot of money, and you know that you can't shoot it 10 times, only 3 or 4 times, and yeah, everybody is really attentive. So it was a big plus, I guess.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and a big pressure, of course. Because there's a chance. Chance of technical difficulties, of course, and in the lab and etc. So it was always a big excitement. We were always waiting, really tense, the lab reports, if everything is okay. But there were no mishaps. No.
A lot of stress,
Yeah, a lot of stress. Yeah, but it was a beautiful experience. Yeah, you never tried it, Danilo? Not even in short films, or
no, never ever shot anything on film.
Yeah, because in film schools, yeah, maybe I was a member of last generation that learned on
No, I think that even now, but I didn't go to film school, so
okay.
So I never had the opportunity to shoot a short film on film, for example.
Okay, and you never went to film school. That means that you studied something else, or you trained yourself to be a film director.
Yeah. I studied philosophy, and then as I was studying philosophy, a bit like you, I discovered cinema quite late in a philosophy school, because they had a library with they had all the Criterion collection DVDs. So that's how I discovered cinema. I was 20 already. And then I started, I made a short film just with some friends, and I discovered that I really liked it. It was very stressful, but I really liked it. So then I kept going like that. Just reading books and, attending the Berlinale Talent Campus, something in Locarno, attending everything I could. And that's how I learned.
That's great.
Yeah. And your film, Danilo, it's shot in Italy, but it's an Italian, French, and Greek co-production.
Yeah.
So maybe you would like to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, everything started in 2012, I think, because I was in Thessaloniki at the festival in the Agora section. So I had my previous film was a work in progress at the time. And we presented the project there, and that's when we met Constantina Stavreanu. And we met, she really liked the project, she decided to help us finish it. And then years later, I was in Paris at the time, and I was looking for a producer for this film, for So the Wind. So I asked Constantina if she knew anybody in France, and she connected me with Jacques and Marianne. They're the French production. And then the production grew. And Constantina also came into the project. So everything started from Thessaloniki and then went back to Greece. And somehow it also made sense, not only because she had been the connection between me and the French producers, but also because, as Dimitris said before, it's also a story that's really close somehow to Greece. It talks about olive trees, and each time I've come to Greece to work, because we did the post-production of the film there, I mean, the similarities between my part of Italy, southern Italy, and Greece are obviously huge. So it's a story that will really make sense for Constantina, and I think also for viewers in Greece.
It does indeed. Hi, Dimitri.
It crashed out the internet. Yeah, everything's all right now. Okay.
Okay. So you had a question for Danilo as well?
Yeah. I liked very much your movie, as I told you, honestly. And I liked very much how the actors performed. So this style of acting between on the verge, on the documentary, and so realistic. You don't have the feeling that they are actors who perform, but real people that you're watching them. It was very interesting. How did you manage to reach this result? I mean,
well, first of all, it's great to hear you say that, because I have the feeling that they act still sometimes. I wish I had more time to go even more in a direction of very naturalistic acting. But I think what I did was preparing with them. So preparing in a way that wasn't. I tried to avoid rehearsing the scenes, but rather we worked on working on the thoughts of the characters and working on their biographies, etc. Improvising scenes, but we never actually rehearsed the scenes that were in the script. Maybe we rehearsed what happened before and happened later, for example. And then during the shooting, I tried to give them a lot of freedom. So really to make them feel that what I I didn't want anything specific. I wanted whatever they could give as long as it was true. So I was okay with everything they could feel in that moment, even if it didn't match what was written on the script. And actually, it was a bit strange because most of the crew felt that I wasn't directing them, basically, by giving them so much freedom. And even the actors, I don't think they necessarily like that. I think it's easier for them to be told, you know, here you're feeling sad, so you act this way and you look this way. And I don't know, it was difficult even for me because I felt that there was a lot of skepticism around me for this way of directing. But it's what I wanted, and I'm happy to hear that you felt that. That's really great.
It worked because the result is, let's say, something that real happens there, and you are. Yeah,
that's what I was trying to do. It does take longer than, you know, if you just give directions to someone. So I want to try now to keep this, to make it a little more efficient, because we had a lot of takes where it just didn't work. So you have to. It's a process of trial and error. But I guess that's what it takes. I don't know.
Yeah, but it does feel very organic, just like Dimitris says. I do agree. And your actors too, Lili, they are different style than Danilo's, but it's amazing acting, especially for such an introvert type of filmmaking, in a sense, because we're kind of inside the world of Marta. So how did you go about directing them?
It was different in the two main actors' case, because for Natasha, the protagonist, it was her first big screen role, although she's already approaching 40, and she played a lot in independent theater and smaller film roles, but that was something totally different for her. And as I said, we rehearsed a lot the actual scenes of the film as well, but parallelly we did a quite intimate rehearsing process, just her, the DP, and me, like rehearsing the smallest things of her character, like how she walks, how she talks, her tone of speech, or how she opens the door or looks into a mirror, and we were experimenting a lot with this, and with Victor Bodo, who plays the male lead, it was quite different because he used to be one of the big actors of his generation when he was very young, but then he completely quit acting and he turned towards theater directing, and he hasn't accepted a role as an actor for like 15 years maybe. So that was his big comeback, and so but he used to play big screen roles before, and in his case it was much more a question of how it fits in his own private life, like this decision of coming back as an actor and with this film, and with them, with both of them, we didn't, as Danilo, we didn't rehearse a lot with them together because I wanted to. He was a professor of hers in acting school, and that created like a curiosity and attention, and I wanted to guard it for this love coming to life on the screen.
That's very, very interesting, and it's very interesting because their chemistry is so tangible. I mean, from the moment they meet on the bridge, not on the bridge, but on the outside the hospital, and he's nice, that he knows her. to the moment that they walk opposite the street for the first time and they do this beautiful walk, but they're not close to each other. You can feel the tension. And I think it has to do with the chemistry between the two actors as well. It's not just, you know.
I think so. Yeah, that's always important when you cast a couple
It's there.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah.
So we have.
I'm so sorry. I think I have to leave. I'm so sorry because as you saw my daughter before, I have to, that's her afternoon time after school. So
Right. Thank you for being here, Lily.
And it was really nice talking to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Ciao.
We've got another question, if it's okay with you too.
Sure.
To move on. So, were there any major changes in your scripts from beginning to end when shooting the movie?
Dimitris.
Is it for me?
For both of you, but you can start.
Yeah. Okay. It is said that you write the script 3 times. The first time writes the script the screenwriter, the second time writes the script the shooting, and the third one is the editing, rewrites the script. So in every process, you make changes during the construction of the movie, let's say, the making of the movie. So during the shooting, yes, I made changes, and I made changes as well during the editing. Not major ones, but rearranges of some scenes. One or two scenes we cut them off the movie. But okay, this is the opportunity you have to change some. You have the liberty to change those things during the shooting. It is a very good opportunity. Sometimes you are realizing that, or you are inspired from the place, or something happens, and you decided to change some things. I like it very much. I use it not to. I mean, some directors they use it very much. Sometimes they forget about the script and start improvising during the shoot. But I don't belong to those group. But some changes, yes, I do during the shooting and editing.
Thank you, Dimitri. Danilo?
Yeah, for me as well, like Dimitris, of course, a lot of things change. I think the main change though happened with the casting of the actress. So before we started shooting, but I think that I had a certain idea of how Anika was throughout the script and for much of the casting sessions. And then when we met Ile, the actress, Ile, the actress who performs Nika, I liked her a lot, and yet I didn't recognize her as the Nika I had in mind, because the Nika I had in mind was more severe. She was almost autistic in her perseverance. She didn't have any softness. She was just like a warrior. Whereas Nika, she has you can tell she's really focused on something, but at the same time she has a softness, almost like her body excuses itself for existing in a way, in the way she walks. And so I liked her a lot as a person. I found her very interesting right away, and yet I couldn't see her as the character that I had imagined. And once I started seeing her as Nika, I found that it actually made the character a lot more interesting, because I was going to cast somebody who looks like a warrior and was going to fight to save something that she cares about, and that wasn't so interesting. Whereas it was so much more interesting to cast somebody like Ile, who feels like she's very shy and she's almost, she apologizes for existing. And you take somebody like that, and then she has to fight for something that she cares about, and I think she really made a big change to the film as I imagined it.
Yeah, she is very striking.
Yeah.
So I think this is it for today. I would like to thank both of you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you to the audience for joining us and for all those great questions they had for you. And we are going to be here tomorrow at 5 o'clock with the third group of Director's Corner. So whoever feels like it may join us. Danilo and Dimitri, thank you very much.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Danilo.
Same. Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.